Good afternoon. I'm Barbara Schreiner Trudell, and this is The Joy Show. Joy being an acronym for Just One You. Well, I am honored to work, live, and play on the historical and traditional territory of many Indigenous nations, including the Anishinaabe, the Wendat, and more recently, the Mississaugas of the Credit and the Haudenosaunee nations. Toronto is home to many diverse First Nation, Métis, and Inuit people. We recognize our oneness, we realize our history, and we choose to create a new reality. I believe we are one. Well, I am really excited today. I have a remarkable guest. Samuel López is a two-spirited man from what is now known as El Salvador in Central America. He's the son of a Baptist minister and grew up in the midst of a civil war spawned by the Reagan administration. He left his homeland before being recruited to the army and having to fight during the Civil War in the 80s. He's lived in Mexico City, Montreal, and then came to Toronto in 1987 to finish his high school at École Secondaire Étienne Brûlé. He studied theology before joining the International Development Studies program at U of T Scarborough campus, and he's been a leader since childhood. He learned about social justice from St. Romero of the Americas, and his family was persecuted for belonging to the Emmanuel Baptist Church, which had several social programs for the women of the disappeared and an orphanage. Samuel knows about community devastation from an early age, and in Toronto, he works as an interpreter translator, and his films document stories of people he has met through his commitment to activism, through community mobilization for the betterment of newcomers, HIV, and 2S LGBTQ plus populations locally and internationally. Proud of being the founder of the Latina group OLA, founding member of the HIV prevention program at the Center for Spanish-Speaking Peoples and Latinos Positivos. He now serves as a drug expert at the Ontario Harm Reduction Network and is a board member of Toronto People with AIDS Foundation. Mr. López loves to talk and has a strong spiritual background, and Samuel has been living with HIV for 22 years. Samuel, welcome, welcome. I'm so grateful that you said yes to this interview.
I was going to pass out after that long bio.
You've done a lot, my friend. You've done a lot. So tell me a little bit about your journey to Toronto, because that's a story in and of itself.
Yeah. Wow. If I go in the tangent, you bring me back, right?
I will. Yes.
I came to Toronto running away from the Civil War in El Salvador. So at the age of 14, people were being recruited to join the army. And so when my older brother turned 18, my parents sent him to live in LA with my aunt. And just before the same thing happened to me, we moved to Mexico City. That was kind of our transition to come to Canada. Like our stop there. We lived in Mexico City for about a year, and it was difficult. I was very young. I was becoming a teenager, and my hormones, in my brain, everything was just flourishing when suddenly I'm in a different country, sleeping on the floors of cold Mexico City, and I rebelled. So, because Dad was so busy at church day and night,
Right,
uh,
your dad was a reverend.
yeah, Reverend Pacheco. So he wouldn't like I wouldn't see him, and I felt that I needed my parents, and they were too busy in the things that they were doing, and I decided I was going to stop speaking to Dad, and I did that for 6 months, and he never even noticed because we didn't see each other. So I was going to school very early in the morning, and they would leave after, and schedule things, right? But it was our survival running away from war.
Yeah.
And the work that I did included working with a lot of refugees and people crossing the borders. and Presbyterians from Canada. So that's how eventually he got offered to come and do the same work he was doing in Mexico from Montreal.
Okay.
And we
Now, do
lasted.
you speak French as well?
Je suis un bon Canadien, a good Canadian would, right? So I'm a good one. And so from Montreal, uh, we lived there 3 years, and then we moved to Toronto.
Right. My daughter attends Collège Français and is doing her grade 12 education. She's been in French public school since the beginning. So, and now volunteers at PWA. Uh,
Ah,
as one of the volunteers there. But so the journey that you've been on now, you have become a remarkable filmmaker. I've
thank
watched a number of your documentaries, and I'll tell you, they do a little wrenching of the heart here when I
you.
watched just some of the stories that you're telling through film. So, can you talk a little bit about some of the films that you've created and your inspiration? What is your hope for these documentaries?
Okay, so thank you for all the compliments. I'm full of joy.
You're on the
let's
Joy Show. You should be.
Yeah, let's do this more often.
Oh, I'm up for it.
So Samuel and Samantha happened as a means to document what was happening in Toronto. Toronto is, if you just came to Toronto now, uh, sadly, Toronto used to be extremely different. We were fighting for our rights on the streets, and throwing stones to the police, and it was real. It has been a struggle, right? A fight. And so when Samuel and Samantha comes about, uh, people of color were getting organized as gays, right? So I mentioned, I think, for example, of Anthony Mohammed. We're talking of the 80s. And
Mhm.
so I basically wanted to do an autobiography. I was a U of T student. I'm Samuel, and I am Samantha, and I felt that I was like uh, uh, that I had a lot of information there to share with others that I didn't want to keep to myself. So through film, I even have my brother doing my makeup, who he's not among us anymore. So it makes us. This is our legacy, right? It makes us last forever. Of
Look how
course, it was.
beautiful you are.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I must say, there's a picture from 30 something years ago.
You're still
But
beautiful.
yeah, thank you. And so basically, what you see in Samuel and Samantha is me talking about my activism and making references to the mainstream and how, you know, Latinos do things differently, and how we organize through HOLA, the Latino gay group that has been around for 30 years. So uh, I thought, let's document it. And I was already friends with other artists. So it came off, it happened to be pretty cool. At that time, the Euclid Theater, I don't know if anyone remembers that, but the Euclid Theater was on College and Euclid. And that's where Samuel and Samantha premiered, and it was a sold out.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a great film. I really enjoyed the film. And I also, what I loved was just sort of the honesty of the journey, the transition from Samuel to Samantha in the film was really beautifully illustrated. I
You
yeah,
like the blue eye?
I love it, love it. I was like, I need to figure out how to do my own makeup a little better, I think.
You probably don't have to remove so much hair.
No, that's true.
But
Thank goodness.
that's the tricky part, right?
Yeah,
And
for
and
sure.
so you probably, I don't know if this is what you're referring to, but uh, in the interview where you see Samuel, just this guy with long hair, and here where Sam is speaking, you could sense that there's a new spirit present when
Yeah.
Samantha is there, because then and that's something that I know because I'm aware of it. I feel it. It happens, and that's how I started associating myself with the term two spirited,
Yes.
because
Yes.
I realized is gay or only implies what I do in bed at times, or how do I wiggle, or which
Yeah.
way I dance, or but feeling that other spirit that it was me, I said this is kind of interesting, and interesting enough. The reason why I first did it is because I wanted to know what Latina drag queens and trans women were saying in the Ola group, because I wanted to talk about HIV. And they said, I want to talk about feathers. And I said, oh my God, how are we going to get there? Oh, I want to be gay first, right? That's basically what I realized. So I
Yeah.
said, well, they are correct, but I wasn't ready for that. I just wanted to go and do it. So we started being gay first, and then when we were, I had to go on protest because of something ridiculous with the police. One day I dressed up and I said, I want to know what it's like so that I can keep my leadership. What it's like to be in their shoes. Why is, there's something I'm not getting. And I
Yeah.
realized that that we are in a society that is pretty shameful of our own idiosyncrasies
It's true.
uh, towards other humans.
Yeah, wouldn't it be interesting if we could look at each other with curiosity and a desire to understand rather than to go, oh, well, you're bad and wrong because you're different than me?
Yeah, and I think
We're,
curiosity is a good word for it because it's
yeah,
at least be curious about it. No one is bringing you to my bedroom, or no one is
no,
going to kill you, but don't make me feel that I'm the one that is going to get killed. You know?
yeah. Well, and of course, we just had a shooting in the US last weekend in Colorado Springs, and it's heartbreaking to see that level of yeah, that level of destruction of humanity because of I think ignorance. It's like I don't understand it, so I'm gonna just wipe it out. And that
Mhm.
for me is so heart-wrenching because, I mean, I have children who are who are on the queer spectrum wherever they land. I don't fully understand everything about them, but what I know is that that journey it's a personal journey. Who I am is who I am. I can't change that. I've always been who I am. And when I think about who I am as a woman, as I consider myself a bisexual woman, that I'm just me, and that should not be judged as bad and wrong. I'm just being I've always been the same way, so why would somebody wanna kill me for that, or kill you for what you do, or who you really are? Like, why can't we just be who we are
Mhm. Did
and
you,
understand one another or strive to?
did you ever have that challenge in your life, or have you?
The challenges that I had, I was, attacked at age 12 by 3 boys and sexually assaulted,
Mm.
raped at 14 after being drugged by an older boy. I married 2 men who were incredibly violent, and, so I've had I've had my I've had my journey, so to speak, but not because of sexuality, because I always hid it.
Wow, that I didn't know. I am so sorry I even asked. I
No, that's
wasn't
a
expecting
yeah,
such an answer. But the
yeah,
thing is that that's exactly what it's not that I wanted to experience it, but I wanted to know uh, if I could understand a little better, to be literally to be in their shoes,
yeah,
right? And
yeah.
not only the lack of comfort trying to walk on high heels, but how
Shoes.
you perceive yourself to go from one corner to the next one, right?
Yeah.
These images are from Walking in These Shoes. This is the latest one of my works.
That's a
Uh,
great.
and this one I did with Christian Hui, who is a dear friend and community activist. And it's about Derek Yee, who you see on the bicycle. Derek Yee, 2 Easters ago, we lost him.
Yeah.
We lost him because he got sick on a long weekend, Easter weekend. And he had contributed so much as a volunteer in many different positions at Casey House.
Yeah.
And he never feared to challenge systemic issues of discrimination or racism and whatnot, for advocating for people living with HIV so that they could access services that otherwise are there to be provided. And that's why we are his legacy, and that's the whole purpose of this film, to continue doing what he did with Casey House without knowing that one day it was going to be him, the one waiting for a bed that was available at Casey House and not having access to it until the long weekend. And he died on Easter Monday.
Wow. That's that's heartbreaking actually that that should happen just because it's the long weekend, you can't get in?
There's no, see, Casey House is the only one hospital of its kind.
Right.
There's in the world that it has been until most recently specific to only HIV, and but they don't have like doctors on the weekend. So you cannot have HIV and get sick on the weekend and hope to receive services for the hospital of your choice, which is the one that specializes in HIV.
Yeah.
So also when this happened to Derek, it was the pandemic, and they were telling him to go to the emergency. To do what? He was going to be sent home from emergency because not even if you had radiation or chemo to do, they were not taking you unless you had COVID.
That's right.
So and at the end of the day, even if he died in dignity, I would still be upset because my friend died.
Of
But
course.
knowing the colonial structure of how he lost his life on his couch on his own until us, the community, went to find him dead, is unacceptable. That's not how it should have been.
No, it's definitely not how it should have been, and I think that's what I love about that film is that you're bringing up an issue that really, hopefully, through this film, it will raise awareness and maybe change the way things are currently being done so
Yeah,
that that doesn't have to happen again, right?
yeah, and it's gonna show. We're going to screen it on World AIDS Day at
Oh,
the. Oh, look at that handsome man. At the
beautiful.
YMCA in downtown Toronto, and it has
Yes.
shown already the AIDS conference and in New York at the Festival here in Toronto. And people ask, right, what's next?
Yeah.
People understand that the people we interview here, those images are from the AIDS Memorial in
Yeah.
Toronto, and Derek Yee. That was the first year that he was not chair of the committee of the candlelight committee, right? So every piece that I have lived after Derek's death, every memory I have lived is a memory of absence. Is the on a
Yeah.
day like December 1st is when I would go to Derek and we're doing something. We're going to the Ace Memorial. We're doing something,
Yeah.
and now it's without him.
Yeah.
But I do feel committed to uh to his legacy.
Oh, absolutely. And that makes a change moving forward. I remember years ago, I'm originally from Calgary, And the very first memorial service I ever did was for a dear friend of mine. His partner died of AIDS,
Mm-hmm.
and he too had AIDS. Now he got healed and is still alive today. So my heart is just joyful for that, because he was my hairdresser. He was important in my life, and just a really sweet and beautiful man. And when he got so sick, it was really frightening. He paid me to do his funeral. He hasn't died yet, but that was so many years ago, because that was in the 90s. And when his partner died, it was, of course I'm going to do the service. But it was heartbreaking to watch the few people who were there, the ability to share honestly what was going on or had gone on. And then the fear was so rampant at that time for everyone, am I going to get it or not get it or whatever. And I think that too raised so many concerns, because people didn't understand HIV, and still don't. Still don't.
Otherwise, it wouldn't be around, right? And
Exactly.
that's exactly in the same words. That's exactly how all I started. Basically, I was at a bar called Kobe's in
Hmm.
1990 or something like that, or a little bit before, and there's a drag queen doing a show, and she says, and this next song is for Marcus so and so, and my dear friend who just passed. And then
Mm,
she said something related to, we have to be safe and things like that. And then I was with a group of friends, of Latin friends, and they started looking at themselves. Do I have it? Do I have it? And so I was thinking, why is it that I understand it, or what I thought that was needed to be understood,
yeah,
and my peers are looking for it on their skin? Do I have it? And I
yeah,
realized it was just the fear in which this came to the communities,
yeah.
one after another, from among the very first 10 men that die of AIDS in Toronto, you see a Latin last name on the list.
Wow.
So we've been after the indigenous people, the numbers of the Latin population with HIV is enormous, and it's silence that creates that.
It is.
So
It
for
is.
me, making movies is breaking that silence. I do believe, and the math is really easy. You don't even need to put the addition, plus sign. You just
Yeah.
say silence equals death. There's no
Yeah.
there's no
Yeah.
minus, there's no plus. It just is. And
Yeah.
so with
And so many people were even afraid of being tested. Like, I had a good friend of mine a few years ago who'd been sick for a while, and I'm like, "Honey, you need to get tested." "No, no, I'm not getting tested. Not getting tested." And I said, "You need to get tested, because to know is to empower you, so that you can do whatever you need to do, right?" And sure enough, got tested and he was positive, but then went on the medications, and he's living well and traveling around the world. He's doing awesome. And has his moments where he gets sick, but rebounds from it, and he's living a good life as a result. But it's like, not not wanting to know, I think, eats away at us far greater than if we do know. And I think in one of your videos, one of the people you interviewed talked about that, that knowing sort of changed the
yeah.
experience, right? You get to the place where you go, I can live with this.
Hmm. So
Yeah.
I remember me saying, you tell me something. I ask your name. I say, oh, what a nice begonia you have behind you,
Hmm.
right? That's information.
Yeah.
As soon as you turn around and see the begonia, the beautiful begonia behind you, it becomes knowledge. At the
Yes.
moment that you receive knowledge, you're responsible of the knowledge acquired. You
Yes.
make it wisdom. So if instead of a begonia, it was a snake,
Hmm.
trying to attack you to make it dramatic enough.
Yeah.
Only I know because I'm the one that is able to see it from here. You
Right.
don't see it, it's behind you. I clean my hands by passing the information to you. As soon as
Exactly.
you receive the information, you turn it into knowledge and run. That's your responsibility. Or
Exactly.
kill the enemy, whatever the situation might be. But to remain, but if I remain silent, I'm becoming accomplice.
That's right. Yeah. Well, and I think that's one of the things about this whole movement that's so powerful. I've been doing a lot of work in it for a number of years now with the Acho campaign, reducing stigma in faith groups, and then doing Black Praise, which was doing something similar, and of course now with PWA. It's like there's a journey of education that needs to happen, and some people don't really want to know or hear about it. And I remember when we were doing Acho, and we had our first group event, and there was a woman in the group, a minister, who said, I don't have any of those people in my church. And I kept thinking, like, how are we going to get through to ministers and imams and stuff to say, yeah, actually, you do have people in your church who may be hiding this from you, feeling like they can't tell the truth even to their minister. And by the end of the day, which really was a big plus for me, is she stood up and she invited AIDS Toronto and some other organizations to come into her church and do a training with her people. And I was so elated because I was feeling really like, how do we get through? How do we break that wall of silence, that sense of judgment and criticism that we can't even speak about this because it ain't happening here, closing the door and living in ignorance rather than celebrating, the ability to understand and to know. And again, like you said, wisdom comes from that knowledge, right?
Yeah. And growing up in a Baptist church in the midst of a civil war,
Yeah.
uh, makes me think of how much information we received and we couldn't share because it was against the law. You would get killed. But Archbishop Romero, who now is a saint,
Yeah.
who I met, so I can say I met a saint,
That's
uh, said, right, like, you could shut my voice, but you cannot silence the cry of the masses, right,
that's right.
people. And but when you were telling the story of your friend, it made me realize I went through the same.
Mhm.
Denial, for one, is symptomatic. The
Yes.
other one, there's guilt in it because the selfishness of not wanting to know allows me to keep being the uninformed person I am,
Yeah,
and taking high risks for many things,
exactly.
right? and
Exactly.
and then it becomes, it becomes complicated. In my case, I waited 7 years before I took meds.
Hmm.
Obviously, by the time I started meds, I was coming from a hospital bed where I was dying, because of that choice. But at that
Yeah.
time,
That was the
I
same
saw.
as my friend.
Sorry.
That was the same as my friend. He was on his deathbed.
Yeah, but I saw my brother taking Crixivan and growing a big belly and sinking from wasting, and I said, I'm too young. I have to look beautiful for another extra couple of years. If I can do without the medication and not get the belly, I'll do that." That's how I activists me working in
Yeah.
HIV. That's how I reacted when the case was myself,
Yeah.
right? So, not the fact that I have been able, in your own words, to contribute and to help others, uh, it's not it's not the same tool that we use when we need to help the self.
That's true. Now we're going to take a short little break here for a commercial, and you're watching the Joy Show. My guest is Samuel, and we will be right back. Don't go away. Watch me change when you change the way you look at things. The things you look at change when you change the way you look at things. The things you look at change when you change the way you look at things. The things you look at change when you change the way you look at things. The things you look at change. Well, welcome back. I'm Barbara Schreiner Trudell, and my guest is Samuel Lopez, as an activist and a fierce documentary maker, making change in the world. So let us continue.
You know,
Loving this.
you have people even from Geneva here, eh?
Yes, yes,
Wow,
yes.
how famous you are.
We're reaching around the globe here.
That's
It's
very good. That's a lot of joy.
well, and most of us need a little bit of joy in our lives, and I think bonjour, Fiona. as we um as we live our authentic truth, when we find ourselves and we just stand in the world saying, here I am, I think there's a shift, and that's what brings us an experience of joy, because there's a freedom in that, and I'm sure you realize that as well through your journey.
You know, when you were talking about your friend at the church,
Hmm.
it triggered me to think about Marisol from Our Faces, Our Stories.
Yes.
Because there is this other part, when you said they didn't, they were saying, we don't have this kind of people here. But
Mhm.
what happened to Marisol was the opposite. You know, many of us that have grown up in a religious environment, we trust and feel confident of the relationship we have with God
Yeah.
through our sisters and brothers, right? In the churches. And she was, a woman with her partner, a man, and they had children. And when she tested positive, she went to church,
Yeah.
and she said, this is, I need this. And she told them what, right, like, so openly. She said, I'm Marisol, I live with HIV, and that was it. It was she never went back
See
because of
that?
the way she was
Yeah.
treated.
That
So it makes me think, okay, so tomorrow I go and I say, I use crack, I drink alcohol, you're gonna kick me out?
Oh no, for that we'll forgive you.
Exactly.
Like that's the thing. Like, even when I first joined PWA, I mean, people didn't know who I was, and here Rev B shows up, and they're like, you could see that people were a little uncomfortable that this minister was in this mix. I think everybody's gotten over that now. We have a beautiful family there, but there was there was reservation from some of them who didn't know me, who I think made an assumption because of the reverend title that I
Hmm.
must be like the ones who had caused all the harm. And yeah, exactly. And, so it took a minute for everybody to kind of warm up to me. I think because Ian McKnight knew me so well that, that helped to kind of buffer it a bit. But I could feel the energy of that. And so I'm using it less because if it's a wall between the love I have to share, then I don't want it there. I'm happy to drop it, right? So that I can be more present with anybody who needs a shoulder or someone to understand or just simply to be with. Like there's something about just being authentically who we are without worrying about labels. And I think labels can cause division and separation, which
Hmm.
that
Yeah,
doesn't serve us. Yeah.
yeah, and I'm sure what Marisol was hoping to hear was, come on
I love,
in, we love you, we'll support you, you're one of us,
absolutely.
and
Yeah.
it shuts walls, and those walls that come from authorities like the church or the nation,
Yeah.
the police, those walls, when trust is lost,
Hard to regain.
you can't rebuild it that
Right.
easily, and that has been a challenge for me. And
Yeah.
after I made Samuel and Samantha, it took me 10 years to do Our Faces, Our Stories, because my father, Reverend Pacheco,
Yeah.
found out about Samuel and Samantha, and he wasn't happy about it, and
Mm.
that stopped my filmmaking.
It's interesting how we will listen to these voices, our parents, our siblings, our community leaders and members, our ministers and priests, and from there decide what it is that we can be in the world. Can I show up? Can I be me? And the story is, no, I can't. It's not safe to be me.
Yeah,
That who
yeah.
I am is bad and wrong.
And unfortunately, that is part of colonialism, and it has
Yes,
been
it is.
around for more than 500 years. So to untangle that or to unlearn it, it's it would require, like, when I first came, there's a term that I can't remember right now, but it's related to feeling peace in a natural way, not the peace that is achieved from a conflict, nor the peace that you feel after something, but that natural way of just
Yeah.
being you, should be peace, should be love, should be joy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It shouldn't be anything else, right? So, and
True.
God is love, whichever way you look at who she is, or uh, it's,
Yeah.
we're made out of love. Creation is made out of love. So I
Absolutely.
don't know what went wrong with the creation of humans, but there was some mistake somewhere around that.
Somebody decided that they should be more powerful than somebody else. It,
Amazing.
yeah. I have a tattoo on my arm that says love is the answer.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And it's like that to me is, I don't care what the challenge is, I don't care what the situation is, love will always point the way if we will do that. And it's like sometimes we get so caught up. I was talking to someone recently about inclusivity, and how, yeah, we're all really inclusive until it infringes on our personal
Of
space or
course.
benefit. Then maybe not so much, right? So we talk about diversity, equity, inclusiveness, and then we practice separation and division.
Yeah,
And
and words like community, and it makes us
oh yeah.
unify, and there's a history though. Canada
Yes.
created apartheid. It's the country with the three scholars that you know got a double A, I believe, was their dissertation on their
Hmm.
PhD after they were being marked. Uh, they got high marks and implemented the the PhD that they wrote on paper, implemented it on indigenous people. So sometimes I wonder if some people give praise to Canada for being multicultural, And I wonder, are we multicultural, or are we, or is that just an extension of this comfort of having little bubbles of black, yellow, small, fat, long, short,
Rich, poor.
because we seem to
Yeah.
have come to such a comfort, not that we are diverse, but such a comfort of having others away from me.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree completely. I think that's it's one of the things that I know we're doing some work in PWA to try and resolve that. And we're in for some work, I'm sure, and I'm so excited about it. But I think I'm hearing groups all over the place talking about inclusivity, and in the spirituality that I teach is all about oneness. And in
Mhm.
that idea of oneness, I was really impressed with my 17-year-old daughter, because we were having a conversation and I said, yeah, people are okay with, I'm one with you, you're one with me, until they're sitting on the subway and somebody sits down beside them who lives on the street
Exactly.
and maybe smells bad, right? And Genevieve said to me, she said, if I pick a seat and the person beside me hasn't bathed, I stay seated.
I
I
don't
don't
believe
get
you.
I don't get up and move. Like she said, I chose that seat and I'm not going to disrespect the person beside me and offend them by getting up and walking away. So
That's
she said,
beautiful.
I stay. And I thought, wow, boy, I love you even more. It's
Yeah,
like,
I wonder if when people say I don't see color, that's so racist. I want
that
you
is,
to see color because I got some color, right? But that doesn't mean
yeah,
that I want you to sit. You come from behind, you sit next to me, and then you realize it's me, and you get up and leave, right? But
yeah,
you
a
have to
friend.
see we are a rainbow. We're not
I
a
know.
just the sky.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
are all the colors that we are. When I started doing HIV prevention work and harm reduction, I surprised myself with the things I learned.
yeah,
I was so happy and proud of the work until Derek Yee
yeah,
put in my hands a roll of syringes and said, "Okay, and you take these ones too, and you take this." And then I said, "And what am I gonna do with these things?" And I was nervous, and I was so scared. And I don't mind sharing this story, but I was there was a feeling that it was very unique, and I never felt before. I was embarrassed. I
yeah,
felt in danger, and at the end of the shift, because we had to go and distribute these things, I didn't even know how to offer syringes or anything like that.
yeah,
Besides, I didn't want to because I didn't believe in that.
of
and
course.
and because at the end of the shift, PWA was closed, so we had to take the material home, and
Yeah.
I'm at home not knowing where to put those syringes. you
What
know
do I do with these? Yeah.
yeah,
We
it's
And
amazing.
that's the story of inclusivity, is can I be with people where they are, as they are, and love them anyway? Because I think the healing happens not because we give somebody a pill or because we put them in a asylum or something so they can't use, or put them in a program that they don't want,
Mhm,
but
mhm.
rather we simply allow them to be where they are until they make a choice to do something different or not. Can I
Mhm.
just accept that? Like, I've worked with a lot of battered women, and some people will go, oh, yeah, my friend, I helped her, and then she just kept going back. So I don't want anything to do with her. And I'm like, well, I'll have something to do with her because I know why she goes back.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
And
yeah, yeah, exactly. And
so I'm going to just love, right?
yeah, and sometimes, unfortunately, it takes someone that has gone through the same experiences, right?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
that the story of the syringes, it reminds me. I also have seen someone die in my living room. I did not choose to see
Yeah.
an indigenous man die in my living room.
Yeah.
That's as terrifying. It's more terrifying than what I experienced as a child in the Civil War. Maybe
Right.
because it's more present because it only happened a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But the truth is that uh, a 22-year-old person is not supposed to be dying in my living room.
Exactly,
You
exactly.
know?
Like there's the that's the the journey that we're on. And I think as we start talking about these different things, as we share our stories of where we've come from and who we are in this moment, where we are in this moment, because we're all human, we're all having our moments of being great and fabulous, and then moments of being a total utter mess, and all of it is fine, all of it is perfect. It's, can we get okay with our own pain and our own joy, and then be okay with the pain and joy of someone else? Can
Yeah,
we honor that?
yeah.
That's the journey.
If I embrace myself and accept where I am at, then I'm loving myself.
Yeah,
Then I can love someone else. But if you ask me, can I borrow $10 and I only have five? I cannot give you what I don't have.
exactly.
I can only give you what I have, and if what I have is hatred, might as well don't get it from me. You know,
That's right.
it's
Yeah.
very interesting how our dynamics are, because we do all the things by inertia. We just, this is the way we are now. It's in our DNA.
Yes, it really is. Yeah.
Yeah. But I hope that at least my movie. I know you say that the movies I make are kind of touchy, but it's it's meant
they're,
to it
they're
meant to
honest.
touch you, right? It's meant to touch you.
Yeah, and they're honest. They're informative, and they're showing the journey that, each of these individuals is on, and it touches the heart.
Hmm.
It really makes a difference. When I was watching Sugarcane, it was
Hmm.
like I was in tears.
You
And
know, yeah,
I
that sugar cane, right? Yeah, you
I
liked it,
didn't
eh?
know if he was going to, I didn't know till the very end if he was going to be able to stay in Canada, or if he, like, it was just breaking my heart until
Well,
this.
it's a movie. I was not going to tell you right at the beginning. Come on,
I know. It
what were
was,
you going to do for the next hour? Turn it off.
oh my goodness. But it's such a heartwarming story, and the struggle, um, and the idiocy of somebody saying, well, did you go to the police? It's like, no. Like, why would I
No, the
go to the
police
police?
sexually abused me. What are you talking about?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So these, what I love about your films is, I love Tiffany. I love that there's that honesty, that it's just real people who are having their life, and what that looks like, and the pain and the joy of it, the willingness to have their stories told, to be, basically to stand naked and say, here, here's my life, go ahead, put it on film, and share it with the world.
Hmm.
That takes great strength, and the way you tell the stories is beautiful and respectful, and I just really appreciate what you've been doing and how you're doing it, and I'm grateful that you're on the I love that picture. I love that picture. That you're on the PWA board with me, because I think the work that we're doing there is so important. And I think that as we as we tell stories, as we share joy and love, as we sit with each other in our moments of grief and in our moments of joy, I think something really healing happens to the collective, because I really believe we're all connected. That
Yes.
is
Well,
that
we have to, otherwise we're not a board.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even beyond the board, I think
Yeah.
all of humanity is connected.
Yeah. You know that part of the reason why walking in these shoes, like there's one thing about walking in these shoes. Walking in these shoes was commissioned by researchers at York University.
Okay.
Uh, it's called viral interventions. And so we had to make films that were no more than 10 minutes long about
Yeah.
HIV,
Yeah.
and to release them at the Toronto Queer Film Festival. because this one is about Derek's difficulties having access to Casey House, it
Yeah.
opened a conversation with Casey House. So we thought. So
Mm,
we have met with Casey House, a group of us, including executive directors from organizations and community members, and because Casey House invited us, invited Christian and I, the directors, to, what next? They were asking. So we said, okay, let's meet, but you're going to meet us with all these people. We're not meeting just by ourselves. We're vulnerable. My friend
yeah.
died, you know?
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what explanation you give me, I'm still hurting his death. And
Yeah.
the truth is that we have met twice, and it's been a very difficult process of just these two meetings that are just informative, and we're not
Yeah.
giving up. We're not giving up because if Derek believed in it, we have to continue our participation in trying to change policy. How, like, it's I don't know the word, but it's an insult to know that you cannot get sick on a weekend.
Yeah, like somehow you can plan that. We don't really.
Exactly. Oh, it's Thursday today. Oh my God, I was planning to get sick tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh, I better wait till Tuesday. I think that's, again, that comes to, the systems that are in place are serving the wrong people. It's like we set up these parameters. It's like looking at the education system for our youth. Teenagers have to go to school at 9 in the morning. Well, that's ludicrous. They don't like to get up till noon. So, what would be the most productive positive for them might be to go to school from noon to 6 rather than from 9 to 3. Like, and it's little things like that as a collective we have allowed the powers that be to determine what regimen we're going to force upon the people around us, whether it's education or medical care or whatever. Here's what you have to follow, and the truth is that that actually doesn't work.
You know what really works is that all of us having experienced something diverse. To
Yeah.
have to say, I don't like garlic because I tried it, but that would
Yeah.
be awful because it's good, you know.
It is. It's very
but
good.
but the thing is, in my spiritual experience, as a child, through prayer, the way it was taught to me through Christianity, through prayer as a child, when they arrested my father and handcuffed him, and I see him by the standing by the door, and I close my eyes and I start praying out loud. When I open my eyes, my father was not handcuffed anymore. They had released him. And
Yeah.
I believe in the power of prayer.
Me
And I
too.
believe in what that kid me said that time. Because in the teachings from the church I come from, what I said was, God, please forgive the people that are contributing to making me an orphan. I hope that by this sacrifice, they can put beans and bread and tortillas on the table of their own children. And these words made me cry because I know I was being so honest, and
Yeah.
I knew that
Yeah.
what I meant. I knew that I that I had detached already the presence of my father in my life at that moment that I don't know, but my father was involved in something because
Yeah.
60 people, 60 soldiers showed up to our home. 60.
Wow. Wow.
And when I see one of them handcuffing my father, that's the end. There's nothing else. That's the end.
And it's interesting, your prayer was one of forgiveness, and it was a prayer of surrender. And
Yeah.
I think that's where the power is, that in the moment we shut our eyes to what's out here, and we return to the essence, that source of life within, that divine presence that we all have. It is in that moment that the freedom, the shift occurs, that can be so pronounced as when you open your eyes, there's no longer handcuffs.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Um,
it's amazing. These are stories of war.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen. That stuff doesn't happen. Uh, they came
Exactly.
here. They came there for him.
That's
Period.
it.
There's no such thing as the kid praying, and it's not a movie, right? And it worked. And so when the thing is that when I come to Canada and I study theology,
Yeah.
then that's when I became further away from the dogma, because the rules were being applied on me at the school. They hated me for being a vegetarian. They hated me for praying in Spanish.
Right.
And until I decided Baptist is no longer for me. It-
Mm.
Dogma is not what is
No,
going to
it's
bring me
not.
close to God. So I meet at with um with El Farouk Kaki.
Mhm.
I go to on Fridays we have Muslim prayers.
Mhm.
I do Muslim prayers with them.
Nice.
Uh, when I needed to know how my brother died, because he was murdered here in Toronto by Stephanie Burnett, his boss.
Mm.
I didn't comprehend. So I happened to be in Havana, and I consulted Santeria and Yaruba religion to find the information I needed,
Okay.
because what my experience in spirituality with what I had from the past was not working anymore.
Yeah.
I didn't pray like that kid that time anymore, because I didn't believe because of the flashbacks I was getting. I don't say this with pride, but I have things in common with you. I was sexually abused as well, and this
Yeah.
was by members of the church, right? So that makes it, I cannot be praying to the same God.
No.
We don't have the same God.
No.
So
And
uh
when you consider what God really is, this dynamic vibration, energy, intelligence of love, and we look at the rules that men have created in the name of the church, like it's like that, it doesn't match. Like when I had a spiritual awakening at 27, it was this huge epiphany where I knew love, that it was this energy of love. And the church I was in, I wasn't raised with church. I didn't go to church. It was like I just didn't do that. But at 27, my mother-in-law invited me to go, and I really wanted her to like me, so I went. But in that moment, I had this awakening, and it was like I went from being in complete darkness to somebody flipped a light switch and I could see. But what I was seeing was love. What I was seeing was connection. And I stayed in that church for about a year and a half. And the whole time I'm there, they're talking about all these people are going to hell, but we will be saved because, and I'm like, wow, that is not the experience I had at all. My experience was one of just absolute this epiphany. And we're at the end of our time. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad we're going to do Spirit Cafe on Wednesday because we have so much to talk about.
to be
Thank
continued.
you. Oh, thank you, my friend. And I think I'm going to have you back because this conversation can go on a whole lot longer
It's
than
been
this.
a pleasure doing this. I'm so excited. I even, yeah, I'm very happy that we did this. I feel good.
Me too.
I feel good.
Joy reigns supreme. I love you, my friend. Have a wonderful, wonderful week, and I'll see you very soon. Bye, everybody. You've been watching The Joy Show. I'm Barbara Schreiner Trudell. This is my guest, Samuel Lopez, and we send you our love and blessings. See you soon. Bye for now.
Goodbye for now.
On behalf of everyone at New Thought Media Network, thank you for being a member of our virtual family. Your financial contributions help share the New Thought message with people from around the world. Please visit and contribute at www.ntmedia.org/donate. New Thought Media Network. Come be you. And please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, peace and blessings.